Hello, it's us again with Felicia and Jen. I'm Felicia.
And I'm Jen.
And Jen, who do we have with us today?
Today we have Rachel. Rachel, hello.
Hello. We would give you sound effects, but we don't know how to do that.
Rachel is our guest today, and she has an interest in murder mystery, so serial killers, docuseries, things like that. So, Rachel, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your interest?
So, hello, I'm Rachel. I have an extreme interest in the macabre and the weird and just all the dark and unusual things that this world has to offer. So yeah, pretty fun life I live.
So when did you first become interested in all of this?
So I wouldn't say my obsession with death, because that's a little odd, but my curiosity about it definitely started. My dad died when I was 10, and then it kind of just spiraled from there, my curiosity. And then I had way too much access to TV and internet. So I was constantly faced with like these murder cases and these unsolved cold cases from years and years and years. And I was like, that's weird. Why is it not solved yet? So that's kind of where it started, when I was actually really too young.
Okay. So do you belong to any kind of clubs for this?
So I actually am in a lot of Facebook groups, and I scroll through these Facebook groups at night when I'm going to bed, which is probably not the best time. But one of them is called Morbidology, which is also a podcast. So I will listen to that too. But I think I'm a part of 6 Facebook groups altogether. One of them is primarily cases out of Oklahoma. I don't know why I got added into that group.
Wow. Is there a lot of them?
I'm like, yeah.
There is a lot of, especially cold cases in Oklahoma. Quite strange.
Maybe because there's just a lot of land.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people, just land.
Yep.
Wow.
So it's easy.
So are you one of those? So I know you have the clubs and the things you're with on Facebook, but do you watch the documentaries on television?
Yes. Big ID channel gal. And just I know Netflix and HBO Max and pretty much all those streaming platforms are starting to put more and more of these documentaries on. And every time I see one, I'm like, play, So I do watch about 99% of them.
So I know you have a lot, I'm sure you have a lot of docuseries and murder mysteries that you're interested in. So what one are you interested in now?
So this actually is one of the highest profile unsolved murders, but right now I'm really into all of the JonBenet Ramsey shows and documentaries. I can't get it out of my head. It just eats me up. I can't.
Do you feel like you can solve it?
What do you think happened?
Yeah.
As a disclaimer, Rachel is not a detective.
Yes. I'm not a professional, guys.
This is her opinion.
This is my opinion.
We do not know the Benet family.
No.
But would you have solved it? I probably jumped into another question, but would you have solved it by now?
I want to say yes, but also, so I have my own theory, and my own theory is, of course, that the brother did it. It makes sense. I think he was downstairs. He was by himself in the middle of the night. He was eating pineapple. She came downstairs. She was annoying the absolute crap out of him. He gave her some of the pineapple, which explains the undigested pineapple in her system. And then he got annoyed with her enough that he cracked her upside the head with that big metal flashlight that is famously seen on all of the documentaries. And then the mom found out. The mom covered it up and wrote that famous 3-page ransom note that you all have seen in the documentary. But it also does not explain some of the evidence, the physical evidence that was found on her body, that they couldn't explain. So that theory kind of is 50-50. But personally, I think I might have been able to solve it. So, you never know.
And I've watched almost all of the documentaries. I think some of the things that make sense to me was that, and when they were talking on the phone, screaming, yelling that she was missing, that she was in the house the entire time.
I have not seen
the entire time.
It's on my to watch list because I'm sure, us being that age, we were like, I think in our teens.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I was very young.
Yeah,
I was
we
like,
were in our teens, so just aging ourselves again.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all over the news when, you and I were in our teens. So I'm definitely familiar with the case. I just haven't had a chance to binge it. And I will. I do love it watching murder mysteries.
Yeah, I definitely think with that case too, and I've said it a million times and I will say it a million times over again. What really makes no sense is that three-page ransom note, top to bottom, all 3 pages, was written on stationery from the Ramseys' home. So if I was going to come in your home and I was going to kidnap you or do whatever, why would I feel comfortable enough to sit at your kitchen counter with your stationery and take that time out to write that 3-page ransom? And in that ransom, the money that they wanted was the exact dollar amount that the father had gotten on his Christmas bonus, which is quite strange. Like, who would know that? It's kind of weird.
You may have missed your call, Rachel.
I'm super into this. It's a crazy ride.
Oh my gosh. So, if you were a detective, let's say you decide, you know what, I don't work with y'all no more. I'm going to be a detective. You walk in the office, they give you a cold case from, let's say, 1990, which was before you were born. What is the first thing you are looking to do? If you were just given a file, this case happened in 1990, they give you a brief background, what does Rachel, the detective, do now?
I think the first thing I would do is definitely thoroughly study the evidence and thoroughly study the case file, because sometimes getting a fresh set of eyes on something is always good. Like even here, I'll go to Jen and I'll say I need you to look at this. It's always easy. I think the second thing that I would do is I would talk to friends and family that are still around, that are still alive. I think friends are a lot more willing to give information than family is, from what I've seen. Documentaries, my books, all of the friends are like, oh yeah, well the night before that we went out and did A, B, and C, and the family's like, oh, I don't know. So friends for sure, friends that are still around. So those would be definitely the first steps that I took.
Why do you think a lot of cases go unsolved? Back in the day, there was no internet. There wasn't police talking to each other. That's one thing. But why do you think they go unsolved now, or they continue to be unsolved?
Oh, that's a great question. They do not secure the crime scene as they should. And back to the JonBenet murder, the JonBenet Ramsey murder. That crime scene was a hot mess. They were letting family and friends and anybody and everybody walk in and out of that house. If there was any prints from anybody else that wasn't in the family, they were gone within 2 hours, because the cops did not secure that crime scene, and the parents just let everybody and their mother walk in and out of the house. From the time they woke up and realized that she was missing to the time they found her body in the basement, there was no evidence left at that point, physical evidence. And then another reason I think is back in the day, of course, you didn't have the tools that we have now. But I also always think of the Ketty murders, because there was no sign of forced entry. The doors were locked from the inside, and the entire family was slaughtered. So there was no evidence there either. And they really had nowhere to turn on that case. There was only one suspect, and it was the neighbor. And the only reason they suspected him was because he had PTSD. So back then, it was just such a different time, I think. So cold cases from back in the day, definitely lack of evidence all the way around. I don't think that there's newer cases that go unsolved very often as much as they did back in the day, but definitely securing the scene and not having enough evidence.
What do you, I'm going to throw out a name. Natalie Holloway.
So
she was the one with she's the one that went on the trip. I get them mixed up because there was two.
Yes. So are you talking about the child, or are you talking about the teenager?
The teenager, the one who went on the trip,
to a different country,
yes. And she did not make it back.
So they actually found out who did that.
They did find out? Okay.
Yes, they did. So, of course, it took years and years and years and years and years to find out. But their original suspect was actually the one who confessed to doing it. And that's another thing, too. Like, I don't think they push enough. Like, I don't think that certain authority puts enough pressure on certain people. They say they didn't do it, and they're like, okay, fine, have a great day, go back to living your life. And that's actually the person that committed these crimes. So that case, of course, went unsolved for an extremely long time. And if it wasn't for him coming out and confessing, it would still be unsolved, and he would just be walking around like nothing ever happened. So it's very scary.
Do you have any interest in serial killers, like ones that have been solved, or is it like truly just?
Oh yeah. No, I have encyclopedias on serial killers, and I have read them front to back, which is super weird. I swear this is literally just something I'm interested in.
And it doesn't make it weird. It's just that is your interest.
Yeah. There's a lot of people have interest in that. Absolutely.
I think serial killer wise, the one that interests me the most is actually Charles Manson.
Yes,
because he's not a serial killer. No. He's not. He did not commit any of those murders, but yet he was put in prison labeled as a serial killer. He had a group of people that followed him.
That worshipped him.
Worshipped him, and they did that for him.
I will watch any documentary on Charles Manson. I just think it's so fascinating that he was able to brainwash those people into killing for him.
Yeah. Crazy.
And to this day, some of them still
follow him. Yes. And some they still believe in everything he says.
Some say they have repented and they realize what they did was wrong. Some of them are just like, till death.
Mm-hmm.
And it just blows my mind that somebody has that power.
You truly see how much of a mental health case he is. If you watch the latest documentary, and I actually forget what it's called, but back in when he went to prison, his signature was worth thousands of dollars. So this man straight up said when this documentary started, I only wrote him to get his signature to get the money. But he wrote him, got his signature, and then the letters never stopped. They just started writing back and forth, and they were like pen pals. And then they started talking on the phone. Well, now, Charles Manson has since passed. Around a month ago, this guy finally finished his documentary with every single phone call. This is 20 years of phone calls between him and Charles Manson. And you dive into his mind of truly the abuse he suffered as a child, moving on until he started going to prison at the age of 14 or 15, and then to be thrown in prison as a murderer when you didn't even kill anybody. And I'm not saying what he did was right. This is not, but it's just crazy. The label that was put on him. I mean, he is a psychopath, but he never killed anybody. So it's just a little strange.
I wonder how many serial killers there are right now in this country, just walking around free.
Isn't that a scary thought? How many serial killers do you walk by in your whole life?
You don't know what that trigger is. You don't know what that trigger is to make them snap and says, this is the day.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
I've been trying to hold back, but today's the day.
Every thought I've had, everything I've entertained in my mind, doing it.
Yeah. And a lot of them live completely normal lives. They live this life with a wife or a husband and children, for years and years and years. And then their partner is I would have never imagined.
I think with the exception of Jeffrey Dahmer, I think when you ask those questions or you see it in news, everyone's like, I never thought he was such a nice guy. I think Jeffrey Dahmer was the only one that I watched that people were just like, nope,
he was weird.
He was crazy. We tried calling you several times. He was crazy, but everyone else was he was such a great kid. Everybody loved him.
Yeah.
Except for him. I feel like he was, I'm sure there are more, but I feel like he was the only exception.
I feel again, that was a failed a failed case.
Oh
like they had him multiple times, and then they were like, "Meh, we're just going to let him go." And like the boy that ran away from him and physically went to the cops, and he was like all broke up. He was bleeding. He was naked, and the cops took him back to Jeffrey Dahmer and let him just go with him, and he ended up killing him.
Yeah.
Like what? Like that's so just off the wall, bizarre.
Yeah, it makes you think how bad those cops feel though after they busted them and he had all those bodies in there. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. So why do you think, I feel like after 2020 there was definitely a big interest in, you know, serial killers and unsolved mysteries. Why do you think there's such a big interest now, and why does they keep making more and more? Like, why are people drawn to this?
I think COVID had a big part to play in the rise of people watching the documentaries and getting interested in them. I think that when they were sitting home bored, they had nothing to do. They were kind of like, oh, you know, maybe this will be interesting. And then it just turns into a rabbit hole from there. There's a lot of different things that you can get into as far as like each murder or cold case goes. The giant rabbit hole you can go down is just insane. So I think definitely when, you know, nobody had to go to work, nobody had to go to school, and then you had this, you know, TikTok platform where everybody could go on and talk about it and have a discussion, Reddit. You could have a whole discussion thread about it and give your own opinions. So I think that being bored was the reason why it started getting a little bit bigger.
Now, I know, we know that you have a fiance. Mm-hmm. Does he take part in this?
He thinks I'm a little crazy. I'm not going to lie. He says it all the time, but he's more into, how do I say this without this sounding weird? Like gangs, like the big, like watching things about like, El Chapo and biker gangs, and he finds that interesting. And I'm kind of like, this is kind of boring, you know? So we both have our thing. But he does sacrifice and he does watch a lot of things with me because I really don't give him a choice for one. But, and sometimes I'll realize that it's piquing his interests. So maybe I'm changing his mind.
How about other relatives? Do you have any other relatives that are interested in this too?
My cousin Gretchen. We share the love of kind of investigating ourselves. And we've been like that both since we were children. So it was easy for us to kind of form like a great friendship when we find the same weird things interesting.
I don't think it's weird. I think all of us have our things. Like I love learning about different cultures. Because different cultures is just like, you know, with some, in some countries, if you are a man, you are not marrying that man's daughter without having some type of payment because you're basically paying. So I think it's called dowry, is it called?
Yeah, dowries. Yeah.
Huh.
And it's just interesting. And then also in some cultures, you don't even get a yes from the dad until you've met the elder of the family. You've met the oldest brother. So it all depends on the culture. I love watching documentaries about.
So what if whatever you're giving isn't good enough? They're going to
tell you. Because I watched 90 Day Fiancé when this happened. This guy wanted to marry a woman. He goes, that's not enough. And the husband, I kid you not, asked, can I pay you payments?
What a way to look bad in front of the dad. That's horrible.
Because in that culture, it is very serious. You do not come to the table without a dowry. You're not marrying my daughter.
And that could be like what? Just like
some is money. Now, if you're from that country, sometimes it's either like land or it's cows or whatever. Because he was American, they wanted money.
Huh.
Interesting. I think we're all rich, right?
Yeah. It's interesting.
I wish.
Is there anything else you want us to know about your interest?
I really think that if more people could get into this, especially cold cases, if more people could get into this subject, we could probably solve a lot of these cold cases. And sometimes, like with a story like the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Smart, it's been so long. Mm-hmm. But obviously, in my opinion, that was either a surgeon or a woman. They knew too much about female anatomy. So if you really break down these cases and you look at all these facts, you can come up with conclusions like I did about the Black Dahlia, and we could probably get these things solved a lot more often than not. So.
Remember Unsolved Mysteries?
Yes.
I don't know if there was this show. They tried to recreate it on Netflix a couple years ago. I think they still make it. And it was like usually 2 or 3 stories they would talk about, like people who were murdered, and they would reenact it. And then sometimes at the end they would do like an unexplained like alien abduction or some kind of weird thing. But there were quite a few episodes where they caught the murderer based on showing those reenactments. And at the end, they would show the phone number to call, and you can give tips and things like that. And the guy who created the show, his son was murdered, and it was an unsolved mystery. So he always wanted to help other people. So that's why he created the show, and it ended up finding the murderers for the family. So they had their answers of who did this.
Wow.
Question for you. Again, Rachel is not a detective.
No, but not a professional.
If you were a detective and let's say a suspect is in the room, is there something you would be looking for as you're interviewing them that may give you this is a hard suspect here. I think this person might be it. What is it about that person that might give you the vibe that I think they did it?
Narcissistic people. Like if they're very cocky and they're very, I couldn't have done this. I'm an outstanding citizen. That is a red flag to me. A lot of people say, like, if you're talking to somebody and they look to their right or their left while they're speaking to you, that they're lying. I don't believe that, because when I'm talking to people, I don't stare directly in their eyes. So sometimes I'll just like look around, when I'm talking. That's not me lying. That's just me being not a direct, like not a eye contact person. But definitely if I bring someone in and I'm talking to them and they're just like laughing it off and like, I couldn't have done this. I have a family. I have a wife. I have a business. I would definitely look into them more, because why are you overcompensating? Like that's weird to me.
So let's say Jimmy Fallon hears this and we're on Jimmy Fallon. And Jimmy Fallon's like, I heard that episode. So I already know I'm going to name this. It's going to be called Who Done It? And he's like, you know what? He knows of a friend who needs help. Can you get your friend Rachel? And we said, Rachel, Jimmy Fallon wants to talk to you. He wants to offer you a position with his friends. As much as you love us, are you willing? Are you? And he says, look, this is what we'll pay you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I didn't even tell her the amount.
I mean,
I don't even care about the amount.
We're backing up a little bit. If we're on Jimmy Fallon, we're not here.
That is true.
You still have my cell
working
number
together.
Yeah,
we'll be friends.
We'll still be friends. But so if they offer you that job, are you going? Yeah. Like, we want you to be on our team to help us interview
Absolutely.
people.
Now, I will tell you, like, I'll help y'all on the weekends or something. But I think that has been like a dream. Now, do I think I could actually go in there and do it and not be overwhelmed? No. Do I think that I would probably lose my mind? Yes. So I think I'm good where I'm at right now. But if somebody did come to me and say, hey, I had this opportunity and I think you'd be great, I'd be like, oh, I'll try it. But I probably will be very overwhelmed. Doing it from my living room is very different.
I can see you like getting into crimes and like, wait, don't touch that. Just like that you're paying.
Or are you serious? Did you really just walk in there without any booties on your feet? Now I can't tell. Is it your feet or is the murderer's feet?
I'm so OCD.
Do you like those jackets that they wear, like the baseball type jackets, and they have FBI on the back? I am envisioning you wearing that black jacket
with glasses,
with FBI on the back, and and then you're just like, don't touch that, and then you just pick it up with like
seriously, did you just pick up that glass without a glove? So now you're the murderer. You're the murderer. That could have been the murderer's
Now
glass.
we can blame it on you. Yeah, I think I would be
on the witness stand. He's dead.
I think I would be very sassy. I'm very organized and like OCD. So I definitely would be like, who do you think you are? Don't touch that. Like, leave that be. Let me, so I don't know. I'd have some obstacles for sure.
Yeah. You'd be doing the whole crime scene yourself is what you're saying.
Yeah. I'd be like, you know what? Just do it. It's like when I asked Jimmy to help me clean and then he does. And I'm like, you know what? Just go away. Like, just let me do it.
Do you know how long it takes to like go through a crime scene? Do you ever like wonder that or look that up?
I think it really depends. Like, if there's a lot of blood and a lot of gore, I think it would take a little bit longer. But also, it also depends on like the size of the area. Like, say, you know, with a trailer, it would be a lot less time just because the trailer's smaller. There's less things you have to look at. But if you're in like a giant mansion, you have to check every single room, every single window, every single crevice. So that would take probably at least 10 hours, at least.
I truly believe you've thought of everything. You know, you would be hired in an instant.
Do you ever, like, when you're watching the shows, do you ever find yourself sometimes constantly replaying what you've watched and trying to solve it in your head?
Oh, yeah. And I also think to myself, this person that committed this crime is really stupid. And I could, you know, you think about it and you're like, I could probably get away with that. But then you're like, no, maybe not, you know? So sometimes it will keep me up at night. Like, if I've watched something and I'm like thinking about it all night long, I will toss and turn and think, well, they should have done this. They should have interviewed this person more. They should have, you know, and it will.
Because now, so what do you do with all that? Because it's not like you can call them up and say, hey, I have some tips for you.
I just sit with it.
So what do you do with all that energy?
I just sit with it.
Cords. You know how they get the cork board?
Yes.
With all the strings.
Yeah. Or like, going back to my cousin, like we have dinner together a lot. So we'll just unload on each other. Like, did you see this? Did you see this? Well, did you see this? And we'll spend hours just sitting there comparing like mental notes. So I hold it in.
So question for you. Hope this isn't too controversy for our listeners. Whitney Houston's death. What do you think? You think that was just an accident, or you think someone did it?
Honestly, with her, I think that was purely an accident. Now, because of the simple fact of she was leading such a traumatic life up until then, that I purely think, I mean, if it wasn't an accident, then she did it to herself. That's just my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. Now,
see, we don't know who's in the room
Didn't
either.
your daughter die the same way, though?
Yes.
Like, that's kind of
yes,
weird.
her daughter died the same way. And as sad as it is, I think that was merely a coincidence. Now, would somebody want her dead? Probably. So there is a possibility. But same goes for like Michael Jackson. I don't personally think that was an accident. I don't. And
well, you think of like the doctors and things that prescribe all that. Like they're purposely overdosing them, like Matthew Perry. Mm-hmm. It was a ketamine.
That or whatever. Really made me the ketamine queen. Yes, that made me mad. And I think it's purely about money for some people, and they don't care about the lives that are lost with it. But especially with a famous person, they are under a microscope always. So you also have to think about like, well, did they do it on purpose? Did they just, you know what I mean? There's a lot of different factors with famous deaths that you never know. You know, you just never know.
Because we weren't there.
And just think of like famous people, you know, if someone wanted them dead, it would be for either money or something they knew.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, but I think with Matthew Perry, you know, I think it was just money, that they want the money for the drugs.
Yes.
But I just don't think anybody was trying to kill him for like anything else.
The deaths probably weren't intentional.
Well, no, because they don't make any more money if they can't sell them, like Michael Jackson. They can't make any more money if they can't sell them any more drugs.
Right.
So,
do you think that you would ever be interested in starting your own club? You could be the president.
Yes, I'll be able to.
Oh, see, that'd be so cool. And there's actually a show, and it's called The Midnight Order, and it's new, and I'm pretty sure it's on Peacock, I think. And it's a woman who literally just had the same interest that I did about unsolved, just murders, serial killers in general. She started a club that met at midnight, and they would work on these cold cases. And it's like her and like 4 other women. I think that would be so cool.
I'm already kicked out.
Not at midnight.
I'm already kicked out. It's at midnight. I'm asleep.
No, not at midnight because I'm also asleep at that time. But just like after I get off work, having like a group that we sit and we legit go through these case files. and see and it doesn't have to be serious. Like, it doesn't have to be like, we have to solve these. It could just be like a group of people that go through, and if we solve it, if we think we solve it, then great. If we don't, then, that's fine too. That would be really cool. I think that would be neat.
And you can present your information on a website or on your Facebook page, and other people can chime in. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah, it would be
fun. So I need you to really think about that, because then we can bring you back and do an update on the process to Rachel's solving cold cases.
High profile murder.
Or proper. And then once a month, or you and your fiance take a trip to LA or Oklahoma.
Hey, Oklahoma's a big one. Yeah.
This is Rachel. I don't know if you heard about me, but I solve cold cases.
Rachel, every time there's a major death, you can come on our show.
Yep. That's
so
fine.
What do you think, Rachel?
Right. I think there's that one that sticks out. When we were coming up with questions and unsolved mysteries, this one that's kind of been solved. The one where the couple were a young couple and they redid a van to go film.
Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito.
Remember that one?
Oh.
Yes.
They were a young couple. They were trying to do like a documentary of their road life, living in a minivan or camper or whatever. They redid the van, started like going out and traveling. He came back, she didn't.
Oh.
And they interviewed him, and I think what he said that she dropped him. He dropped
so
her
there was cops called at one time. So that case also, and immediately I was like, he did it. Mm-hmm. I just had a feeling immediately when he came back without her. I said, no, he is so guilty. How do people not see how guilty he is? The cops were called because of a domestic violence dispute between them. And they wanted them to separate for the night, but they stayed in this van together. They didn't have a house. And they were like in the mountains somewhere. So they were far away from their house, their home. And so as far as the cops saw, they separated and went their separate ways. But then he came back to his parents and said he had no idea where she was. Kind of weird. Yeah. So
we a case for Rachel.
Yep. I was like, he did it. He did it. And his parents covered for him.
I don't think he died. He killed himself.
He committed suicide, unfortunately.
So
but there was a notebook of his that was found where he pretty much confesses. I find it hard to believe that his parents had no idea. I think his parents really were covering for him. And when he came home, he told them what had happened, that he had killed her. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe he just got so angry that he just snapped. But his parents covered up for him, especially his mother. There's no doubt.
Her body.
Oh, you know what? I think they did. I think they did found their body. It took a little bit.
That seems like, because you imagine like you and me going out like on a trip. We're announcing it to everybody. You and I are going on a
They made a whole YouTube channel about it.
Yeah, it wasn't like an unknown thing, and we didn't tell anybody. And then I just came back one day and be like, "Oh, where's Felicia?" I don't know. She's somewhere.
She went to the bathroom and never came back.
Meanwhile, your partner's freaking out, calling the cops, or coming to me and be like,
"Oh, he's knocking on your door."
She just got off somewhere, and I don't know where she went. Don't you think that's a little weird? Like,
I'm telling you, Rachel, there's probably a lot more people out there like you than you think. And they're probably listening to this, probably figuring out. So if you know me and Jen personally, you can reach out to us and we can give you Rachel's information.
Yes, because I would love a partner to sit down and really look at these cases with, So, yeah.
Wow. This has been fun. Yeah, this has been fun. So again, Felicia, Jen, and Rachel are not detectives. No. This is purely our opinion. So only anyone, I don't know if anyone could try to write us, they could, I don't know. If you know us personally, just send us a text.
Again, I'm inserting that we need editors and sound. But this is every episode, so we get somebody that offers you for free.
For free. So this has been fun, and thank you, Rachel, for taking time out of your day.
Thank you.
And we'll let you know when it's published. So all of you people who are interested in people being murdered and their case not being solved, Rachel is your person. Contact me or Jen. We'll get you to Rachel. But so we'll see you later. Until next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.